Okay, well, welcome to your bone therapy session. It will be a pattern of movements where you'll feel in a way to invite heaviness into your bones. So what I want you to play with is your chair is distant from it's on your mat, and you're going to face your left side next to the wall and take a wide stance. Widen your stance, and then if you find that the chair is still too close, just kindly push it a little bit away so that when you stand, your knees are bending, your heels are in pressure, so you're inviting heaviness into the bones, and then you'll grab a belt. You have your blocks forward on the floor in front of your position, and put it behind you. So when you're holding your belt behind your hips, you'll slide the hands out open on the belt. And then as the weight in my bones gets a little heavier as I proceed forward folding, move your hands so they stretch the arms back. And then as you flow forward, let the weight of your head actually lower down, and give yourself some moments here of experimenting with bending the knees, straightening the legs, but most important, stretching the chest and the shoulders. So bring your arms overhead. Really try to feel that you can successfully reach back. Depending on the wall space you're near, you might be touching to a wall space. Your rear might be up in the air. That is all things a little bit up in the air. Get a feel of that movement of the shoulder, kind of feeling it glide a little back and forth. Let go of your belt. Trust that you can drop it and move on. And then grasp your blocks in front of your position, and then soften the knees. Okay? Slide the blocks farther out from your pose and feel where there's heaviness into the bones of the legs, and then starting to enter that weight into your hands. So as you enter a flexibility phase here, we're going to lower down the blocks, 1 or 2 settings lower, depending on how it meets the awareness in the legs. And we'll come into a breathing phase of focus. So let your hips slant back. Let your arms stay progressively reaching on the blocks, but you might find that sliding them out is a fuller pose for you as you come into a wide downward facing dog. And let the head, the brain move between your arms. And then as you set your reach through the palms, you let your head relax. Feel where there's that very full stretch throughout every particle here of your extremities, legs, arms, spine, extension. Breathe. And I invite you to be in this shape with the head between the arms for about another minute, and calm the mind, letting the weight of your head be heavy. And feel that interaction of breathing slowly and carefully, exhaling longer than the inhale to provide you a sense of support and concentration into your practice today. Kind of tap into the collective that is practicing with you. There's several of us. In your Zoom neighborhood. Now, as you start to move your head up, slide the blocks back towards your legs so they're close enough under your shoulders from this pattern of hands down touching blocks. And then bring your right hand to your right hip, the back of the hip. Slide the hand to the sacrum and twist to your right. Turn the waist. Yeah, be a little sensitive to your knees here. You might have to bend them a little bit more. Stretch the arm up to the sky, turn your head down to the left arm, switch sides, right hand on the block, palm open. If it's uncomfortable in your wrist, turn the hand out a little bit and turn the inside of the elbow also opening. And then as you start to twist, the left hand comes to the back first here, and then turning the waist. And I suggest that you be a little bit improvisational on that. So you might come back, forward bend, bring your hand to your back of your hip, sacrum, and then twist. So feel how you progress through that inner leg sensation, and then lift up the left arm and turn. And feel when the waist rotates, maybe you lift up your gaze, which is actually positive for our neck. But I think it takes time to figure out, how do I hold myself with my head turning without causing more strain in my neck? So if I turn my head down to the right hand, that's pulling the neck too. It just feels like the comforting angle for most of us. It's that rounded vertebrae. So lower the left hand however you are. And we're going to start to proceed to our chair. So what you'll do is you'll use your blocks. I find just kind of shift over to my chair and then pivot your back foot. And I want you to put a block up on the lower leg of the chair, the front legs of the chair. So I'm going to tip my block up so it's tipped up on the foot of the chair, each bottom leg of the chair, so that I can use that as a structure to stretch my foot, my calf actually. So I'm going to position the chair so I can get a pretty clean reach of my left leg straight. And my chair, maybe push it a little forward so I can reach up to the bar on it easily. And then I'm going to put my right foot, prop it up, flex, okay? And then set the foot up onto that block on the right side of the chair from where you're looking, right? How you're looking into the chair. Okay, when you are stretching your calf here, you might work with your elbows on the chair. I would progress here to a focus of that extension of my spine, so I have a natural curve, but it's a little delicate to try to enhance that because your calf is at its wit's end right now. So find a way to be with a part of your body kind of at its edge. That's one part of the practice on some of these poses. Breathing. It can only help. Yeah, and feel the naturalness of the right foot turning out just to be in this position, just to be on this earth. And then slide the right foot off of the block right under the chair seat. So the right foot is parallel, the back foot is parallel, but the feet are in two different tracks. Well, the legs are at least. And then I hope that you can work here for a moment on reaching and deepening the stretch through the back of the legs, which might mean you slide forward on the chair seat with the hands and the elbows down. And you progress so that it almost feels as if you're kind of dissecting the pose from the waist down, and the upper body has freedom to lounge as it wants to warm up the legs. It's a great sequencing for preparatory walking, right? So it's a lot of deep warm up for the legs, for the core muscles coming up. Okay, so turn to the right, and you might keep your elbow on the chair. You might have your hand slide back and help lift your elbow and lift the right arm up. Okay, so feel where that right hip reaches back. Feel where the turn is in the torso. Lift and lengthen, get some openness through the armpit. Press down the inside of the right foot, lower the right hand to the bar of the chair, back bar, and then lower that hand down to the seat as you pivot your left foot behind you to turn that foot open, and then lift up the left arm and turn into what's called a triangle pose. Yes. So the chair seat is so nice for triangle pose. So what I can create is these triangles in the body. So that means the one that's under your right armpit into the leg is truly triangular. But feel if your seat kind of moves back as if it's creating more arch in the spine and stretching the right leg, good. And then feel if you can get that left arm to lift up. Ever more, reaching through the arm, inhale. And then as you exhale, lower the left hand and let's come into an upward dog using the chair seat under our hands. So I'm going to slide my fingers to the edge of the chair, lift up my back heel, so pivot the back foot from the wall. So my heel is up a little bit, it's touching the wall. Ensure that your chair is on a mat for this one. And then when you slide your right foot back, you're going to lean forward and stretch your torso. This is a pretty basic upward facing chair dog. I could elaborate on it deeper and bring the chair a little closer. Right, so you can always do that, and you might feel a little bit more of a stretch into your front of your legs and into your waist. Right, but you want to work on really boosting that torso opportunity and length. And then switch back into dog pose. Feet wide, seat to the wall, head relaxing between the arms. Okay, feel the arms shoot out of your waist and let the waist lengthen, spatially reach. Yeah, in between sides is a moment to take some inventory of noticing the differences before you set off to the second side. If one side now feels a little bit more spacious. Actually to the block, not the chair itself, but the block. It's a deep lengthening for the lower bones of the back of the leg. Yeah, so if you feel the juncture at the top of the thigh, into the hip, pelvis, waist, you can feel that juncture. I want you to feel where your hands are or your elbows are able to support your torso and projecting the calf to stretch. So you might do a tiny micro bend of the left knee and be surprised at how it responds. Do the best that you can as you swipe that left foot under the chair seat, bottom of the foot presses down parallel. And we hold this for a moment. We anchor the weight into our feet. And if your legs are in one track, you're going to have to kind of kick things around here and get in two different tracks with your legs. You know, it's kind of an interesting position since you're used to moving your legs out from under you all day long. And if you analyze in these patterns, you might want to observe how your core relates, even if your belly is pretty passive right now. When you turn to your left now, and you bring your hand maybe to your hip or your ribs, a little higher up, kind of feel how this waist, belly waist, has this opportunity to kind of flip and turn. So if the left arm goes up, if the left arm goes behind you, both are good, but explore the ranges, okay, in the waist. Now, you can do lots with your arms, and if your wrist is bothering you on the right hand, bring your elbow down, come back, and then get a feel of that turn of the waistband. So lifting through the left arm, breathe in, empty the lungs, and then switch the side. So the left hand might come to the bar to take a moment of length, and then bring the hand to the seat and turn the right foot out. As you rotate to your right side, I mean, I know this doesn't seem like the rotation piece of these two poses, but you are turning in your waist and lifting up the right arm, okay? So without losing feeling in the glutes, the buttocks, the whole midsection, the low back section, reach up to that ceiling and turn your ribs to the right and up. Okay, kind of play with looking up or looking down. Try to lift out the torso so your shoulders aren't bunching up to your ears, but you're lifting up out of the midsection to span the ribs. Something between wings and ribs, the ribs. Come on down to the seat for a moment. Actually, what I think we'll go with here is we're going to lift up the arms, come up to stand, and then step the right foot in about halfway, and then step the left foot up on the chair seat. Now, this is a bit of a gamble for balance. Okay, so you've got something behind you, you've got a wall. So you'll bring the right hand to the outside of the left knee and the left hand back to the wall. Now, this is something where you might decide, this didn't work for me, my wall's too close. So if that's the case, you are going to need to move your chair a little bit away for some of us and take the left hand back and see if you can feel like you have to actually reach to the wall to get that hand to turn. So the thumb faces up at the wall, turning the fingers back. Right hand is the outside of that left knee, turning through the rib cage, balancing. Good. Okay, now as you come back center, working on standing balance, we take that left arm up, straight up to the ceiling. We try to stay with that one-legged balance. Bring the right hand up to the left arm. So hold on to the center of the arm, the elbow. You could call it the center. Bend your left arm and press or plus back into the elbow and feeling the circulation at the back of that arm, upper arm, tricep. Yeah, we've already touched on two areas that are rather delicate on deep stretch, calves and triceps. Okay, now keep that elbow as the top arm and then let go of the elbow with your right hand. Reach your right arm under your left arm like you're going to scratch your armpits. And then reach the left elbow over the right and intertwine the arms. Okay, so your left foot is still on the chair seat, but what you've done is you've taken your arm crossing, so the left arm is over the right, and you'll want to feel like your back opens, and as you intertwine and stay stabilized with that left foot, I know there's still a remaining workout here for the heart, right, to hold this up. So present with the breath, feel through the rotator cuff. And now as you unwind, I want you to go through, arms out from each other, interlace your fingers, stretch your arms straight up. Yeah, and then step the left foot down, and then when you're standing into your feet, if you can, move back so your back is at the wall. And your rear will touch the wall, so it's kind of a perfect position for the tush to touch. And it gives you some space in your back, but try to move your arms up. Not that they have to touch the wall, but I want you to keep the arms with that reach. And then lean over towards your left side. I'll mirror you. So you're going to go to your left, feel the waistband. Lift up high through the sides of the waist. Breathe into waist, and then come back center and moving over towards your right. Yeah, feet could be apart. Feet could be together. You could feel the differences in your intensity in your arms, and then come back center. And then turn back to that chair seat. We're going to place the right foot up onto the chair and then turn to your right, left hand to the outside of the knee, left hand back at the wall, turning so the thumb is up, right thumb faces towards the ceiling, and you're rotating. I know. Let the rotation be much more than the pure example of the left hand on the right knee and the right arm back. See if you can enter a reality of the shoulder blade behind you. I think they're all behind you, but at least you know your shoulder blade's behind you. It's got your back. But when you are turning, can you blend the openness of your chest, the shoulder blade moving or wrapping to the spine? And then we come up with that right arm and we bring the left hand to the right elbow tip and stretch the right hand to the upper back. Okay, so simply play with that for a few seconds. You know, and feel how quickly that delivery into the tricep changes when the right arm comes over the left and you intertwine the arms and lift up. Try to keep that heat in the tricep for at least about 10 seconds as you gain movement with the elbows. Now, if my chin tips up, I'm going to try to keep it right center. Good. So keep that emphasis for a few more. I know the standing balance can be a bit of a doozy here. And then as you move your arms up, okay, we'll step down and then step into the position of reaching your arms towards the wall behind you. Feel that arch to the spine. Keep it very equal in your rib cage and your upper back. And then meet the best thing possible here. You're going to go to a forward fold, hands to the chair seat. And then I want you just to get a feel here. We're going to try going to a balance pose called half moon. I want to try it from our forward stance, our forward motion down. So step the left foot back to the wall. So the heel is going to turn. So the outside of your little toe side of that left foot is near the wall base. And then you'll step into the right foot. Okay. So see if you can get into a frame of mind where your left buttock kind of swings a little to the left side like you're wagging your tail. And then you'll necessarily need to move your chair a little bit. Okay. So when I lift my left foot up on the wall and turn to what's called, right, a standing leg and core balance, you might really have to get your chair away. Now, the benefit of your wall space, if you have a good amount of it, is you could, depending on the side that you're on usually, use your wall to hold your body up too, including the chair, right? So you could do both. So you can meet back at the wall. But if that's not happening for you, pause for the whole group here. And focus on pressing into your upper foot, your left foot into the wall. Left arm is going to reach straight to the ceiling. Gaze looking down to your right arm or simply the chair. Okay. Contemplate bending the right knee and feeling that progressive openness through the ribs, lifting up into the arm. Okay, now that you're kind of stirred up into the practice, right? Getting a little stirred up with the waist, the hips, the sturdy, sometimes lack of control, right, in this pose. Okay, we're gonna shift, and I would notice your heart rate here on this one. If it picks up when you're trying to maintain that, and then when you come back to the chair seat, rather than flip it all the way to the second side first, turn so the left foot, the toes face down. Feel the balance in that right knee bending. Try not to hyperextend the bottom leg, so I'd rather have you bend it than push back the knee. And then when you change the sides, take a moment in between, walk your feet back without touching the wall, slide your hands forward, your head onto the seat of the chair, and relax. If anything, you're able to get that sensation of length in the back of your legs to continue, but no brain strain. Okay, now as the hands slide back, we shift our weight forward. And keep in mind, you can experiment when you come into your second right foot up at the wall. And once you nail this pose, you have an idea technically what it's about. You can really experiment with your distance from the wall and to play your edge. So putting your foot at the wall is really the most important piece, isn't it? So you can come into this pose with your back foot parallel, but you can also come into the pose with your back foot turned out, right, and lift up. So either way, you're starting to go to turning your foot at the wall open and then lifting up the right arm. So turning and creating that co-balance between your left inner thigh, okay, and your right hip. Good. Yeah, so keep at that pattern of working on feeling that lift and that intermediate challenge here in the stomach muscle. So you're looking down to your chair or your hand, but maintain that presence of breathing, securing the focus on the heart. Bring the right hand down to the chair seat, turn the back upper foot at the wall so it toes face down. But use the pressure into the wall, not necessarily to push the wall, a hole into the wall right now, but to get a feel here of that equilibrium in your hip frame. It's kind of an interesting moment for the hip to balance. Okay, now if you were to work on moving your hips back or your tailbone under, it would be kind of difficult in this position. So we're going to work a bit with that pattern. So I want you to let your right foot lower down and hands on chair seat. Bend your knees, so you're going to round your back carefully. And then when you come up, hands to the arms, lifting up, turn to the wall. Let's move our chair a little closer to the wall. And turn to the wall so that your hands are at the wall. And your right foot reaches back, the top of the foot on the chair. So you're stretching your quad, your hip flexor dynamics here. Okay. Now, the left foot has to stabilize and lengthen the leg, but you certainly could prompt your toes to hook under on this position, or let the top of the foot, my preferred variation. Okay. Feel the hands walk up as high up the wall as you can. Relax into your shoulders, so not too much strain by going too far up, but feeling now the weight into your left leg. If that's taking over and you don't feel your right quadricep right now, it's a good time to get out of the pose, right? So if it's really dropped into your left leg and you're not getting this right leg focus, then shift sides. So when you find that it's time, take the right foot down and work on just your steps. We'll take each side twice, but kind of notice, very personally, how you step or how you swing the movement back in the hips. So my second side there feels a little more stretch in the front of my left thigh. So I seem a little more enamored with that than the right leg's tiredness. I'm curious about trying to move through that left hip. So when I slide my left foot down, I go one more on the second side. Feel how you step through the toes, the ball, the heel, and the left foot. And then as you move your weight to the left foot and then move the right foot back on the chair, then bring the hands in front of your shoulders and press so the arms are long. Really try to push. Even if it's pleasant and you don't feel like it's deepening, change sides so we start to find a bit of a match in our legs. We're going to do a chair back bend today. So we're warming up our quads a bit. So that when we enter that phase pretty soon, it's not such a surprise to the thighs. The thigh surprise. It will happen. There will be a thigh surprise coming here. Okay, now left foot slides down. So what we're going to do is take our bolster, and I know this is a very different sequencing, just in general from what your habits are in these classes. So kind of work with the sequencing. So you put your bolster down so it's vertical away from the wall, right at the base is fine. And then I think my chair is pretty much fine. It doesn't have to go farther away. You do want to have it so this bolster has something on top of it so it balances on the bolster. So it could be the shortest setting was probably best, the low setting. And then I step into the chair. Okay, so you want to have a backless chair for this one. And then when I step through, if you have a block or a ball, you're going to use that. So we'll place the block or ball between the knees. And it's a spacer. It's not required. I'm going to do some stuff without the object between the knees today, just to get a feel for the easiness in our hip band. So when you hold that block between the knees, oops, my block is at its most narrow setting. If I place it at the mid setting, it might feel a little easier in my lower back. So just give it a try. And you can place it so it's feeling like it's on the lower inner thigh towards the knee, an easy place to squeeze. Yeah, try to play with both options. Feel what's best in your low back. Okay, so I find myself to reach my hands to the back edge of the chair. I like to flip up the blanket so I can actually get the pretty firm part of the chair versus anything that's mushy. And then as I hold the position, I feel how I arch my back. I decide how far back I want to be sitting on the chair, which is going to make it easier for my shoulders. Okay, but I'm interested in getting them balanced and moving the shoulders back, the ribs gradually opening out horizontally, and then get a feel of your core commitment here. Okay. Turn to your left. You're going to bring your right hand to the bar of the chair, and you're going to twist to your left. Try to keep the knees across from each other. If they are doing a lot of swerving, you might have to pay attention, right? And bring some focus to the knees so they stay across from each other. You're squeezing the block, turning to the left, and then reaching your left hand back farther on the chair seat. How far would you eventually go? You might get the back around the waist and get all the way to the other arm of the chair. Right? You might be able to get to those places so you have a deeper stretch in your shoulder. And it can feel very nice in the shoulder to have that complete opening. Okay? But the chair seat is fine, right? If that's what you get, that's what you get. Don't throw a fit internally. It's what it is. I find that holding the chair seat feels nice on my obliques, right? So some of my core abdominal muscles, that feels like a better stretch than when my hand is back around on the arm of the chair. I lose that stomach stretch. It's only in my shoulder at that point. So give it another about 20 seconds here. but be slow and deliberate on your breathing. Feel the bottoms of the feet, all these little things you can bring attention to when you're doing time. It's kind of the way it goes. Doing time. Some days are like that. So now, are you pulling with your right hand, like you're pulling your waist to the left and back around and twisting, or are you just kind of holding it because you were, instructed to do that? So I think that's important to notice. Are you pulling and turning? Okay, so come back in center, feel the middle, and then round your back like a cat pose. So you're gonna hold onto the bar and round the back, scoop the chin in, and then inhale, pull yourself back up. And turn to your other side. Okay, so the left hand around, the right hand to the chair seat. Yeah, feel the waist, feel the back. Keep the knees side to side. You have to be kind of a disciplinarian on that part, I think. Maybe it's better when the block is a little bit smaller to keep them across from each other. Okay, now this side, that's true. The farther through the chair you are, you might likely get the arm of the chair, that's true. But this is more shoulder, isn't it, than it is waist. So feel the ribs, the intercostals expand with your breath. Feel the back side, the inside, the heart lifting. Yeah, and if your head turns, you might feel comfortable turning your head, and maybe the other have it centered. So feel the options with your head shifting. Good. And then as you come back around to the front, facing forward, this time we're going to take the block out, okay? And let's work on lying back into our bolster. So if you just kind of look at your level and height, it's a little bit more work than you do in a, quote, restorative chest opener. I mean, you're going to have a little more opening on this one because the chair seat it's a little stiffer than the bolster, for one, even with the blanket over the edge. So it will be more definitive, I think. So I have a caution, right? I got my block at the back, so I'm going to make sure that's close enough for my head. I'm going to tuck my bolster in, although it's usually fine how you have it. But scoot your seat forward on the chair seat so that more of you is supported by the chair, right? Best case scenario, when you lean back, it's pretty easy peasy if your body is really set up on your chair, right? So I have my back lower shoulder blades touching the chair. Okay, so you'll feel your ribs on the chair. You'll feel the skin kind of drop back. So here, I'm not going to use a block, anything on the knees. Learning how the quadricep actually kind of angles into the knee itself. It's kind of like a monorail system. So I'm going to let my feet take whatever position is comfortable for my knee. And if it is easy for the knee, then make sure that your feet feel parallel. That's fine to start with. Okay, try to keep them parallel if possible, as far as you know at home when you're on your back. And then step 2 is to bring your arms overhead. Okay, you can get the block removed if you feel that it's okay. It's a progression. And if you bring your head farther back, it's more spinal stretch. And it's not necessarily the spine stretch you want, right? It's a little more arching. So it's strengthening, but if it feels like, then you put your block back. Okay, that's all you do. You don't stress your back more. So second stage is to bring your hands under the chair seat and hold the legs of the chair. Okay, opening through the chest, the ribs, and then feel where your feet are comfortable. So you might slide them in closer. Opening up through the rib cage. And be especially wise with the breath along the lower rungs of the ribs. Feel the belly expand. Stay with it for a couple moments longer. It's kind of an exhilarating pose when you get out, just feeling a back bends, emphasis around the heart, the lungs. So try to use the time in the pose so that you can receive the most benefit from the pose. That's the idea with timing. Now let go of the legs of the chair if you're there, and if you're with your arms back over, and you're kind of working with the balance. Now, part of the balance is the weight in your head, isn't it? That's like you've kind of noticed there is pressure. So when you move your hands to the arms of the chair now, feel how you pull yourself without getting your head off of the block yet. Okay, or you're on the bolster, one or the other. You might not use a block. So as I pull, my focus is to get my heart to lift up. That's my emphasis here. Yes, I know I'm going to get up and sit in the chair, but I really have to spend the energy on the heart up. So pull, lift up your head, and then as you slide your hands up, find a place on the curve of the back bar of the chair, and then lift up, pushing into the chair, pull yourself up, okay? It's a crucial testament to core strength, but it also requires practice. So if you get up here and you're still here and you're not falling through the chair yet, you might have to scoot a little bit back. Round your back, feel that rounded shape through the spine. Inhale, spine extension. Exhale, round the back. So like cat-cow patterns. Flexion of the spine, extension. Good. Now as you come back center, still feeling a little of that response from that back bend, you're going to scoot back in your chair seat. Make sure you got your wits around your blood pressure right now. And then you're going to turn around in the chair. You're going to stay seated with it. We're not jumping up. And turn to face the wall. Okay? We'll take a position where our feet are on our bolster and our knees are out. Pretty easy peasy. It's Baddha Konasana. Yeah, it's pretty balancing. If you're a little bit too close to the wall, you might have to adjust things here and there. You know, if you got a wall next to your knee, that happens. It's happening for me. So when my knees are out, I'm going to lean forwards. Feet are on the bolster, so it should be very padded under your feet. Soles of the feet are together. Well, at least the little toe side of my foot is together. Yeah, you don't have to touch to the wall. You could hold the chair seat and lean straight down. Okay, now when you come up, you're going to step into your left foot and bring the right foot up to the left knee and lean. Now my bolster's in the way. The reason I left it here is that some of you might like this version today instead. Step on the bolster and then let the pose take its shape. Right foot crosses up to the left knee and you lean forward. It's deeper knee work, isn't it? It's a little bit more in the hip. So if that's just too much for you, just kick the bolster away for the time being. Yeah, toss it. So it's up to you. Now when I lean forward, I'm going to hold the back of the chair, even if it's not giving me any delivery of stretch in my shoulders right now. It's still a principle of balance. So I want to be a little cautious. I've got my foot on the bolster for me, but I'm going to step my foot a little forward. So my knee is over my ankle versus over my foot or my toes. And if you don't want to use the bolster, truly, just set it over onto the side and we'll get to it later. Okay, so take a few moments here. Foot on the floor on the bolster. If you're on the floor, you might be able to reach the wall without fumbling much with the prop under your foot. Back muscles lengthen. Really try to balance out your low back. Okay, now change sides. Come up, switch foot down, bolster under the foot or the floor. Left foot is down, right foot crosses over. Depends on what side you were just on, just switch it. And then as you lean down, you'll feel the difference in weight bearing. Even though you have a chair, you're able to bring a little bit more heaviness into your hip. Part of it's the nice alignment with your sitting bones on your chair seat. It's like better than a bolster, isn't it? Because even if you have a blanket on your chair seat, it's a little more stable, doesn't have differences in height, even though the bolster seems pretty firm. The chair is better. So lean forward now. Hands could go to the wall. That's a little more intense for most everyone on the hip. And let your mind move down into your legs and your hips. Steady breath. And now as we carefully move our hands back to the legs or the chair seat, we're going to do a couple tricep awake poses. So we'll move our feet forward, take a block between your hands wide, hold overhead, and feel when you bend your elbows, hands behind you. Feel if you can balance your weight in your sitting bones. Okay, elbows are perfect. Yeah, the elbows are like you're creating an element. Okay, now scoot your feet together and lift up the right foot, and only lift it up enough that you still have true balance and your elbows are lifted up and moving back. You'll arch the spine to create that. After about 10 seconds, you've got to. Lower that foot and switch sides. Now, for those of us that are hip flexor prone, right, or it just tightens up in the front top leg, really feel the alliance between your sitting bones, the pelvic floor, right, and the awake all the way up into the navel center. Feel your elbows squeeze in. Now lower the foot down, lift the arms up, still holding the block, of course. Inhale, straight arms overhead. Exhale, bend your elbows just like you were a moment ago, but both feet down, elbows back. Well, actually, elbows up, hands back, holding the block. Inhale up, feel the spine nice and concentrated. Breathe, good. Exhale, bend your elbows. Hands are reaching back with the block. Last time. So as you lift up, find the elbows still in a micro bend. And then as the hands move back, you're pushing into your block. The elbows move in. Okay, feel that concentration in the back all the way through the shoulders into the triceps. And then as you stretch your arms straight up, lower the hands and block down. Take the block off to the side, and then hands on the chair seat. Scoot your tush forward so that you're right on the verge of going to the floor. True, okay? My hands are holding the sides of the chair so the fingers are out to the sides. And then as I lower down, I'm going to keep my elbows moving back for a moment. And then I'm going to let my tush come back up. So I'm going to do a couple muscular positions for the tricep muscle. So as I bend the elbows, they're going to move back. That's the challenge. And then you're going to push into your hands to straighten out the arms. So your rear is not on the chair, right? It's off the chair. Now, one more time, bend your elbows. Now, if they wing out to the side, be kind. Try to work with the elbows moving back. Now we're going to carefully lower down. Okay, so you might scoot a foot under and carefully bring yourself to the floor, or could push all the way down. And then push your chair a little bit away from the wall, away from you actually, to the center. And rearrange things. So you're going to need a sandbag. That's important coming up here. And you're going to want to have enough spaciousness from the wall with your left leg bending. So you might want to sit on a blanket, depends on your flooring. If you're in a hardwood floor, you definitely want a blanket here. But otherwise, you can see what happens here. Okay, so I'm going to get a sandbag on my left leg. My left knee is bending, and a block could be under your knee if you want to have a little support. So depending on your knee joint, right, if it's coming down to the floor, the block would probably be not a good idea because it's already advancing to that point of flexibility. But if it's up and it's feeling tight in your hip flexor, you can use a ball or a block or something that allows you to feel like you're able to stretch the leg down. Got it. So right hand's going to come up to the chair. I'm going to kind of keep futzing with it till it's perfect. So when I move my elbow on the chair seat, one of my goals is to reach the back of the chair, the bar. Yep, there you go. So the palm is open. The arm is reaching, so my elbow's no longer touching down, but you might have your elbow down. Depends on your arm length, right? Some of us might not want to hold the bar of the chair for whatever reasons. It feels fine with the elbow down. Maybe you hold your head with your hand. And then start to reach the left arm also to the direction of the bar of the chair. So I'm leaning now my head down to my arm anyhow. Okay, so I'm trying to get a greater stretch to that left side of the waist. Now, let's say your arm gets to the chair, both arms, both hands. Then you're working with that rib rotation open. So, but instead of being too ambitious and getting the chair with that left hand no matter what stakes that you have, I would stay with just feeling where it's at. Some of us can, tip your chair and get the hand on the back, but then you're rolling your shoulder in. You just aren't, not ready for that if it's not naturally there. Good, so feel where that arm reaches. Now, as the left arm stretches back, maybe you touch a wall. Okay, you're gonna lift up your head and then bring the right hand to the left knee and then take a twist. Now, depending on your wall spacing, focus on the waist turning, not how far back your arm gets. Yeah, I have a limited range where the space is here, so I'm working on my right hand clutching onto the left leg, just above the knee, about a little bit around the knee itself, and then turning the waist to the left. Keep the right foot flexing, keep the toes upwards. Now, twist, move energy through the organs. But they're quite helpful for our back muscles. So now when you unwind and come back through center, flow through the ribs, come back to the chair. Now turning to the chair, you're going to take a leg crossing. So my right leg is in front of my left anyhow where I'm at. So when I pivot and face my chair, I want to take my stand to my right thigh now, and then I'm going to take a forward fold onto the chair seat. So I reach down, forehead on the chair, and I take the stretch into my right hip. If it's not stretchy enough for you and you want a little bit more intensity, you can move your chair away. But use the chair, right? So you can get the back to have a complete lengthening opportunity so that you can kind of almost relax into a little bit versus straining the awareness through the spine to stretch. So if it's too far down to bring your head to the chair, you could add a blanket, a towel. You can reach the back of the chair with the hands, the sides, the arms of the chair. Engage in the breath, the belly movement with each inhalation. And letting go. You know, that feels pretty good, huh? So when you come back up, we'll switch sides. So my right leg is already ready to turn out, starting here. So I'm going to take that body to turn to the other side. So my sand stays on the right thigh, okay? So the left leg uncrosses and stretches under the chair seat. Turn to your right, yep. So when you turn right, you have that left leg extending. Now, I like sometimes to feel the back rung of the chair if you have one, to keep my foot toes upwards. But then I can't get my arm all the way to the bar of the chair. So you have to kind of figure out what's important to you. If you know you're not going to get the bar of the chair, then maybe stay with the foot on the rung. But when you lean into this left side over and down, try to secure your focus through the turn. If you can touch the wall, it might be useful information for your body's movement in the rib cage. And then as you lift up your right arm, stretch it towards the left side, towards the bar of the chair. And if you happen to get the bar and it's no big deal for you, you're working on still getting the ribs to flow open. And so you want the muscles between each of those ribs to actually have some hydrating movement opportunity with your breath. And it might just be that. That's all we know is happening, right? There might be some more scientific value beyond the lung work, but right now we're working with easing the back muscles through a side stretch, stretching the lungs, strengthening and relaxing. Okay, a few more moments. Yeah, and keep in mind, you can always have your head relaxed to your hand. And you can always sit on a blanket under your sitting bones for this pose too. So you get a little bit of a supportive balance for your back muscles. Now take a twist. So you're going to come up, slide the hand down the chair seat, reach your right hand for the wall, take the left hand to the right knee, and then turn the waist. Yeah, once you have some awareness ignited in your midsection, the prop position perfection kind of goes away, right? You can go a little deeper inside to what's important. Just like lots of things, right? You can kind of go a little bit underneath the surface and feel where you're moving the waistband to turn. Feeling the belly expand and contract. Now we come back forward to the chair. You gotta be a little careful how quick you come out of those, right? Because the body is receiving. So I'm gonna come into a cross-legged left leg forward position facing into the chair. So when you turn the waist, sand goes to the left thigh. And this time when we go forward, feel where you can reach onto the chair, the arms of the chair, the forehead down. You forget how good these are for your back until you actually spend a minute or two in them, right? Instead of kind of flinging through them in a choreographic wave of thinking. For me as a teacher, it's nice to experiment with them and then be with the position. So noticing the amount of weight you produce into your seat, right? That's important to notice. And you're using that weight to propel you forward to stretch your back, which needs stretching, right? It needs to feel like it has possibilities, hydration, optimizing the circulation through the vertebral column. So feel the head in all its flexions and extensions when it lowers down. Yeah, some people might want to turn their head on this pose a little bit. Let the head nod a little side to side. Now, as you slide your hands back on the chair seat, we're going to shift it out. So we're going to come into hands and knees. So I want you to take your sand off. It'll be gone until the end. Okay, so we'll just kind of set it aside for now. Actually, no, we'll use it real soon. So keep it nearby. Okay, so unwind the legs and then we'll get rid of the chair. Let's put it away. Let's actually don't go put it away in your closet right now. Let's put it away besides your mat. And then take a bolster away from the wall, straight away to vertical, stretching away. And then you have a sandbag nearby. And you might use your belt pretty soon. We'll see. But let's take a position where we come forward to hands and knees. You might want a blanket under them, under the knees. And then you'll come forward to that classic up dog using the bolster under the mid body. So I'm going to move my bolster even farther away so that what touches onto the bolster is right where the lower belly meets the front of my pelvis, right? That's where I want to hold that position. And I'm pushing into the wall. And you might need to move farther away and farther away until you feel like, okay, I've got this nice meeting of a bolster so that the angle on my pelvis and my back is comfortable. Okay, now lower down so it's not such a sharp stretch, okay? Everybody can see me a little bit here. Okay, lower down so it's not as sharp of a stretch into your back, all the way down to your elbows. And then when you're down on your elbows, you're going to feel where your feet push into the wall and let that be the impulse to help you come back up. So you'll slide your hands back, inhale, lift. We'll do several of these and keep the hands where they're at. Exhale, lower down. So let the crown of the head move forward. Gently massage into the belly. Inhale. This is both muscular and organ, right? Organ-based movement. Okay, so when I lower down, I really identify with my muscles to use the pose to move. I'm stretching, but I'm using my muscles to lift me up and then to lower me down. So it's pretty simple. We'll take two more. Inhale, push and lift. Exhale all the way to the end. That's the idea, isn't it? Inhale up. Good. Exhale last time. Okay, now slide the hands back. We're going to come up to table and down dog. So the knees are up and the feet are heels up at the wall. Head down. If you touch the bolster, so be it. It is possible. For some, it might happen. If my head is on the bolster, I'm going to lower my heels to the floor so I have a little more challenge. Okay? And you'll probably notice this even in your sinuses, right? When you switch from where we've been to here. Feel the hands push the floor away. Yeah, celebrate some muscular support here. Now, when you lift up your heels and you lower your knees, you're going to swing the body onto the bolster. So you're going to move your knees over to the left side of your mat. And I want you to crawl over to that side and then be far enough away from the wall, okay, that you can reach your right arm on the bolster and get your sandbag on the left side. Now, if you're too close to the wall, but it feels kind of nice to have your foot and your lower leg bones supported, that might be nice to have for this shape today. But if it's like bothering your knee, then you just scoot away. And now, blankets could be added, right? You can add one under your right hip. You might decide not to have the bolster this angle under your shoulder. So you could pivot the bolster like we've done many times in class, the typical way in the last year or so, but changing it up a bit. So feel the side flush, and you can add a block overhead under that left hand. Okay, so feel what would be a good opportunity. I like to go without the block and then hold my wrist with my right hand, hold the left wrist, And then I hold it up there to keep kind of draining out into the arm, right? The armpit, the lymph. So increasing that flow of lymph. It's kind of funny. Some of the shapes are like that we work with, or we're purposely putting the body in the circulatory system in a position to enhance. Yeah, it's pretty old school, isn't it? This yoga is medicine type of work. And if there's any pain and it's not good alignment for you, that's just simple. That's it. You know, if there's pain and it's not good alignment, you lower your arm to the floor or on the side of your body. It's kind of a difference though. Sometimes it's just tired. The muscle's tired. And it's short. The muscle isn't stretched out that way. So you get tired quick. Okay, a few more seconds. And what I want you to do in between the two sides, for this one, for kind of time regulations and supporting your time, honoring it. Whenever you're ready to come out of this, come into a reclining bound angle. So that's up to you time-wise. But I'll recommend today when you do that, that you slide the sand on your ribs for your breathing. So when I turn, what I'm going to do is put a block under my bolster because it's just easier for me to do that now. You know, basically I don't have to get any more props out. And I'll shift my props so I can be in this position without hitting the wall. And as I lower back, my feet can scoot forward to touch the wall so the toes are stretching. If it's uncomfortable, then you're going to need some props under your thighs, right? You might need blocks. So maybe at home you got 3 blocks. You can put one under each leg. Now work with it so my sand is across right below my sternum, upper ribs. My arms can go overhead, deep full stretch in the waist. My arms could go down by the sides. But if this is becoming intense in your legs, you can always take a break. You can bring your knees to point up and feet on the floor and focus on the ribs and the breath. And then maybe in a few seconds, you come back to your feet together and your knees out. You might surprise yourself being able to kind of wiggle your way to a perfect Baddha Konasana for the moment. Regulate the length of the inhale, the release on the exhalation. Now we'll switch the side angle. So you're going to turn to that side sage, side angle pose. Turn to the left when you're ready. If you're not ready, you can stay where you're at and move the block away. Okay. Lower down on that left side. Reach the right leg back and add your sand to the outer core of the waist. Feel where the sand works well. Maybe it's on your hip. Maybe you need a block or a ball on the inside of the right leg. And then go into the shape and feel the arm reaching. Yeah, so part of this pattern will be with that reach of the arm, that length. Right hand could be on the ground beside your bolster if that's more comfortable for your shoulder. Steeping the weight of the body into the bolster. Now we'll have a little fun in the final spinal with this right hip flexor. It's kind of opened up in the front, peeling open right now. It's a little peeled open. So now, you know, keep all the sand nearby, but what we'll do is we'll roll onto our back, and then, depending on all your props around you, be aware of what's behind your head or next to it. You're going to roll onto your back. Now, you might want a blanket under your head. And what you'll do is take a left leg to straighten down and cross the right leg over to the bolster, okay? So you might put a ball at the sacrum. You might have your sand on the outer right thigh. But, you know, it feels best to me right here to have a blanket under my head. That seems necessary for the moment, okay? So, again, you might have to be moving all your props around. Okay, that's the nature of this session though, lots of props. So you could go real twisty on it and let the sand be supporting your external hip. You might let the thigh stretch a little downstream. So be sensitive to the wave of rotation in your hip joint and the wave of movement in the arm. Okay, so get a feel for that. So with the chest open, the left arm either back overhead, right? So it reaches behind you. It might feel kind of interesting to change it up. Give it a few moments. A couple more shapes. Delivering wellness into your low back, your rib cage. Feel the solid awareness of a breath moving inwards and expanding. And with the out breath, letting go. Now, between sides, on your own pace, you're going to let the left and right foot both stretch down towards the wall. Maybe it's near you, maybe not. But when you uncross the leg, I want you to bring the sand on the top of the thighs, both of them. So the front of the thighs open, just with the sand. Okay, so that's a good practice in general before you move your bolster to the other side. But just in general awareness, you might work with this generically from time to time, to especially after a long walk, right? To get these to kind of flush out. If you have a bolster under your back, that would be better, right? If I have my back of my pelvis on my bolster, change sides now. Left leg over to the bolster on the right, and then sand on the left outer thigh. So having a bolster under your back for that, with the sand across the thigh lids would promote that lift of the hip, right? The thigh lids, and then stretching through the quad. So, and that's also good. Stomach meridian, right? It's a good place to open up. There's a lot of good stomach meridian poses, but most of them are really a little harsh on the knee joint. And that's one that has no knee issues. So I have the left arm open, the left leg across. Sand is supporting your thigh traction, which is for your lateral rotators and your low back. Okay. So feel where your arms are suggesting the best opportunity to open. Yeah, however that might be. Breathe slow. Exhale completely. Now, once the mind has become rather concentrated on just letting go, would be one part of this. We'll let go fully by getting our legs up the wall. If you're feeling pretty sharp and wanting to focus on supported shoulder stand, you can use the chair for that if you have had a couple tutorials on that one. But when I pull the knees to the chest, I'm going to roll and come up, and then get my bolster against the wall base, which is right across horizontal. And then, let's go without the belt. Let's keep it rather just simplified. So we have our blanket under our head and our sand nearby, okay? So you're gonna roll upside down, so your legs will swing up on the wall. And depending on how close your rear is, when you rotate up, have the support of your blanket all the way to your shoulders. And then as the spine centers up, the back of the pelvis, this is where the front of the thighs could have an opportunity to balance out, interestingly enough, when they're upside down. So get a sandbag to the soles of your feet. Be individual about how you progress. If you do use a sandbag, bring the feet off the wall, bend the knees, scoop up the sand with the soles, and then when you push and lift up your sand, position it so that you have just the right amount of separation, not too much. You don't want the sand to feel like it's going to sag down between your feet. So, you know, a good look at your knees is helpful. So you'll notice they all have, everything is contoured in the legs from the ankles all the way to the knee. It's all these contours. It's not straight. So I think it's helpful to just recognize that and practice. It's not straight. Your body's not in that zone. So kind of enjoy the reality of the tailbone. I can't quite get my tailbone to press exactly how I want it to. I probably could if I had a little space between the wall and the bolster. So I think I'm getting, eventually you might find you get a little more intermediate with the back muscles, and you can start to move your bolster a little bit away from the wall. And it's something to play with. So when I'm here on my back, let your head center down. Feel the weight of your body. If you have another sandbag, you can put it on your ribs. You can go to cactus arms if you got space around you. You can bring your arms back behind you and open out your elbows. And rest your eyes into an awareness of letting go. Swell the belly with your inhale. And then feel as it lowers back to the spine. Now with that alternating sweep of the lungs with the breath, see if you can focus on the breath at the lower belly, right below, way below the belly button. So really feeling the feeling of the belly zone that is usually pretty dormant and sleepy. It's there, you know it's there. There's plenty of skin in that space, but it doesn't necessarily have a lot of muscle tone there. So when we swing the legs up, we actually stimulate that part of the abdomen. And if you put your feet above your seat and you move the feet off the wall, you'll feel a little bit of stimulation there. And then when you move your feet back slowly to the wall, it activates in that lower pelvic zone. It's actually upper pelvic, right? Because that's where pelvic floor is. That's where we think it starts in some circles of concept, right? In that zone, right? And then it goes all the way back around the tailbone and then out to the sitting bones. So that's pelvic floor. So draining through the legs, feel the feet flex, feel that stimulation of the flow of lymph through the lymph nodes in the groins. And then where we seal the deal here, we're going to feel the abdomen relax back to the spine. It's time well spent, even if it's a couple moments over here. Okay, bend the knees just to get that circulation for the immune system. And then we're going to move our feet a little bit away from the wall and bend and bend. You can tell this could be a good 10-minute pose, huh? As long as your feet don't go to sleep and it's too tingly in the legs, that's when it's assigned to come out, and you'll advance in time. So move the sand off the feet and bring the knees in, and then circle your feet or circle the knees and roll to a side. Pause for a moment. Please try to pause before you come up. Blood pressure's low here. So come up and take a seat so that you're seated on a bolster, maybe against the wall where you're at, or you're seated on a blanket. Either is fine. It's in your home, so you really can feel comfortable wherever you end up sitting upright. Let your eyes close and feel that they basically relax down. The lids are shut, and the hands reach up to balance in front of the heart space. So let's unite our focus. Feel that collective of those in practice, balancing bodies and minds together. So uniting our breath in, and with exhalations, bowing into the space behind your heart. Thank you. With gratitude, namaste. Okay. All right. Thank you.